Joining us now in Studio B, Uncle B, Blaine Fowler, dual threat analyst, here to talk some college basketball. And I want to point out that Blaine has impeccable fashion taste. Blaine, I knew I liked you for like a million reasons, and then you walked in with a shirt that I just recently purchased like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
My friend. I'll make sure that I never wear it at the same time as you.
That's good. Of course, I don't buy any of my clothes. I'm completely sponsored.
That green and navy blue back-to-back, yeah, it's sharp.
No,
So-
Brenda buys all my.
Oh, Brenda.
Yeah,
Well done.
By Brenda.
So I don't even. I'm color. You guys know I'm colorblind, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
people get on me like, do you know this? Do you know that tie doesn't go with that? My answer to them is, do you know that Brenda was out of town before I got dressed for this game? So that's the absolute truth. I'm colorblind, so
Except
I don't.
when you wear the red ties. You know when they're red.
Well, I have my. Let's not say red. My Cardinal ties, because I don't wear crimson.
When does Dallas graduate?
He finishes in this spring.
Okay.
But what if he goes to a red team in the NFL?
Then you got to represent
Then I got to represent it. So I'll stop wearing Cardinal when Dallas is gone, unless he goes to wherever he goes. And wherever he goes, then I'll wear that color, and people are just gonna have to, just deal with it if it happens to be red.
Yeah. And
But everybody needs to know it's not crimson.
Blood thicker than water. Got to represent the family, right?
harder to explain all that, isn't it? It just takes a while.
All right, Blaine, let's start with our Twitter question today. Obviously, you're here to discuss BYU basketball and that unbelievable win over Gonzaga on Saturday. But what does it do for BYU in the West Coast Conference tournament now, knowing that they just took down the #1 team in America?
To me, it's a combination of that and the Portland game. I think it's the week leading into the tournament that makes a difference to me. I think they gained a lot of confidence in playing outside the Marriott Center. And I think that they, for the first time in back-to-back games, it seems like all season long, well, let's just say road games, back-to-back road games all season long, that everybody seemed to have defined roles and know what they were supposed to do and be confident in what they were supposed to do. So I think it was the whole week that gives me more confidence going into the tournament because I like the way they played. About the Gonzaga game in particular, they played like they matched Gonzaga's nastiness in that game. And we've talked about the Zags earlier this season, that the difference between them this year and in past years, in my mind, the reason I think they can get to a Final Four, they play with a nastiness about them. They play defense better than I've seen them play defense. They've always been really skilled and efficient offensively. And now they got this nastiness to them. And I thought that BYU went in there Saturday night and matched the nastiness of Gonzaga. And so that was really encouraging. With that nastiness, they still play within themselves. They didn't turn the ball over incessantly. They didn't force as many shots as we've seen them force on the road in the past. So there were a lot of really good things that happened last week on the road. And it wasn't just the Gonzaga game. It was the whole week. It was the 2-game series that made me feel like, you know what? Maybe they're finding themselves enough to beat St. Mary's. Now, did they beat Gonzaga? What did we say about them beating Gonzaga up there? Well, so you're telling me that there's a chance.
Yes.
They defended well. They played gritty. Gonzaga didn't necessarily knock down shots from three, even when they were open. Credit BYU's defense for some of that. But BYU played really well, and Gonzaga didn't play their best game. But I like the matchup with Gonzaga. If they can get past St. Mary's, and hey, if they can get back past LMU, which I think they should. LMU plays at a faster pace. They give them some trouble with their guards off the dribble and the way they penetrate. But I think that BYU, they were close games. I think they have their attention. That's a good thing. But I think they get by LMU. St. Mary's, to me, is the tough matchup because from a pace perspective and style perspective, it's a tough one for BYU mentally. They have a hard time adjusting, and St. Mary's is so veteran and so good at what they do, they force you to play at their pace. They force you to play their style, and BYU's just not veteran enough to make them play at their pace. And so it's a tough one for them. If they get by that, who knows in the finals, right? They actually match up from a style perspective and from a pace of play perspective. They're way more comfortable playing like Gonzaga wants to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So St. Mary's is the one I look at and go, oh, gosh, I just don't know.
They're the unicorn win, right?
Yeah, that's the one that's a tough one. And isn't that weird that we're saying, hey, if they can just get to the finals, maybe they match up with Gonzaga better than St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Gonzaga's a way better team than St. Mary's. But from a matchup perspective, I think BYU's just more comfortable playing the style of play that Gonzaga plays. And BYU's comfortable with the style LMU plays as well.
That win to me was more about the future, not this season, than this season, given what you just said. So we finally saw where the ceiling is with this group. We finally saw what Elijah Bryant can do I think that excited Cougar fans, not just for this season, but for the next season, if that's Eric Mika's last. Who knows?
Yeah, well, and Eli, if you went and watched practice last year, that's what he was doing in practice all the time. And everybody that watched practice last year was just going, man, when's that guy going to be out on the floor and perform in games like he did in practice? Well, it's hard when you don't understand your role, and it's hard when you have an injury that makes you miss all of camp when you're coming together as a team, the first part of the season when you're defining roles. And so these injuries really, I feel like, slowed his progress. And then you know what? You come in while the season's already going and then try to establish what your role is. That's not an easy thing to do, and it took some time. But this last week or so, I think we're seeing the guy – and I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was in the 39-point game every game, but we see what the potential is. He understands what his role now is. I think that TJ stepped into his role this last week too, and they can be scary next year. Have we not been talking about this since before the season started?
We're just waiting to see it.
Yeah, but we knew, we said, hey, they win 20-plus games. That we don't expect them to be. I thought they'd have a borderline chance of getting to the NCAA tournament. They've got to go win the WCC tournament to do it. They're right about where I thought they would be before the season started. They disappointed us on the road a few times. But we thought they might do that because they were going to be so young. I still have really, really high hopes for next season, and the Gonzaga game, to me, is a window into the talent that is on this team and how they can play when they play together with the proper roles.
Okay, I had this question come into me on Twitter saying, Spencer, you're the tournament train conductor. Tell me, does BYU have any shot in an at-large bid after they beat Gonzaga on the road? What if they beat St. Mary's? What if they crush LMU by 20 and they beat St. Mary's, but they lose to Gonzaga? And so I was like, well, I'll plug in the numbers into this RPI calculator.
What would you think the RPI would be if they did that?
Well, it came out as 54. Which is not high enough, but the committee values playing well and impressive wins late in the season.
There's so many automatic bids that go out to leagues where the best team in the league is going to be a 70 RPI, or an 80 RPI. I mean, that's just the way it is. And there's going to be upsets in conference tournaments where number 138 is going to get into the tournament. Right. Because so many spots are taken by that, there's just not that many at-large bids left. And I've always felt like minimum you've got to have a top 40 RPI. I feel a lot more comfortable if you're a top 34 RPI. But if you're in the 50s, man, it would take everybody in every tournament in the country that's the number one seed in that conference to win the tournament. And so you don't have any sneak-ins.
So you're telling me there's a chance, Blaine?
No chance. Come on.
That's way out there. That's way out there. So you know what they need to do? They need to go win the tournament.
Yes.
Then they get in the NCAA tournament. And if they don't and they end up in the NIT, they need, this team with their youth, it may not be bad for them to go play a number of games in the NIT and play really, really well to add to the experience. And now that it seems like this last week they finally figured out what they're doing, how about playing 3 or 4 more or 5 more games like that, now going to an off-season comeback? I think that that may even be better for them next year when we have high expectations than going to the NCAA tournament and getting a low seed and playing a really, really good team and being
that'd be great. I just hope BYU has a home NIT game, right?
That would be nice. Right now, projected 5 seed up from the 6 seed in NYC Buckets, NIT bracketology. Okay, so the West Coast Conference Awards are expected to come out at the top of the hour. Mm-hmm. Who's your player of the year?
I don't know how you go against Nigel Williams-Goss. And the reason is that he – and it doesn't always go to the team that's the best, but Gonzaga this year, they're not just the best team in the league. They're one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country, and he's the catalyst for all of that. And if you go look statistically all season long, he's 3rd in the league in scoring. I'm talking about conference stats.
And that's what all this is based on.
He's 7th in field goal percentage. He's 4th in assists. He's 1st in free throw percentage. He's 1st in steals, and he's 3rd in assist to turnover ratio. Now Eric to me is the next guy. And I think there are a lot of people, if they didn't turn their ballot in, because people were working on him last week before Saturday, that may have gone, whoa, I need to go back and look at his conference stats. Because this was obvious to me that it was Nigel.
Yeah.
But maybe I need to take a little harder look at Eric's stats now. And I think he maybe picked up some votes. So Eric's 2nd in the league in scoring. He's 1st in the league in rebounds. He's 10th in field goal percentage. He's 14th in free throw percentage, and he's 1st in blocks. I mean, that's a lot to digest. So they both have tremendous stat lines. And so now where they both have that, you've got to go and say, okay, Nigel played huge games, especially, and I know you're not supposed to go outside the conference, but early in the season when they were getting that RPI up and they're impressing people and beating Arizona and playing big-time teams, he was huge.
Yeah, whether you believe it or not, those games impact the conference.
It does. And you're supposed to look at conference stats when you're doing your ballot, but you go back and you look and you go, man, he's been huge in every big
those
game.
Coaches especially remember the games against them.
Yeah, and a lot of people voted last week before BYU played him Saturday night, unfortunately. But so I think he was the leader in the clubhouse. I think that Eric Mika probably gained ground on him Saturday night because he was phenomenal. But it's hard. And he's got BYU ties, remember? So Nigel's first cousin is Alexis Williams on the Cougarettes.
Oh, that's right. You told us this.
So his uncle is the wrestling coach at UVU. So he's got Utah ties, so we can root for Nigel.
Well, Alexis has got some bragging rights, at least this week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's up, cuz?
Yeah.
And hey, this isn't like Kalani telling me, hey, that's my cousin.
Right.
They're first cousins.
Legitimate.
They're legit first cousins.
Family search. We'll see a name.
Whenever somebody says, yeah, I meet people and they find out Kalani's my neighbor and they go, oh, like he's my cousin. I go, so like first cousins, they go, well, no. Then they start telling me, I'm going, okay. This is legit. This is a first cousin.
Actual cousin. Yeah.
Blaine Fowler never disappointing us in Studio B. We'll see you in Las Vegas, man.
Yes.
Party in Vegas.
Big
Thursday.
week. Lots of work to do.
Yeah.
But it's the most fun week of the year.
Just make sure Brenda's there to help you pack.
She'll be
okay?
there. Well, she's going to help me because tonight we're going to lay everything out by color. And then I put my little, what is it, like kangaroos things on the back, my little ruse things that tell me what goes with what.
The kangaroos thing.
What just happened?
Blaine,
what are you talking about?
you've opened Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Next week we'll discuss.
Those stickers that tell me what to wear together. Hey, let's not make fun of colorblind people.
No, that's amazing. That's
No.
amazing. The detail that goes into that. Oh, that's good.
All right. I learned something today.
If I
About
don't
time.
match, if it don't match, then things got messed up in my suitcase.
Yeah.
Blame it on the kangaroo stickers.
So please forgive me, those viewing at home.
I have so
Oh.
many questions, but we don't have time.
You don't love Uncle B now.
We'll talk to you in Vegas about it.
If you don't love him now, you'll never love him. Oh man, good stuff. Thanks, Blaine.
All right,
Mom
guys.
said about my wife.